You have to be aware of what is going on around you and around.
He's built multi-million-dollar companies. His explosive books on health and wealth have sold over 60 million copies. Now, The Kevin Trudeau Show, they don't want you to know.
Welcome. It's Limitless, Kevin Trudeau Show. I'm Kevin Trudeau. Thanks for joining me. We have breaking news. We are breaking a global story here on The Kevin Trudeau Show. This is the first announcement of this in any media, on any podcast, in any source, as far as I know. We are breaking the story. In order for you to be limitless, in order for you to release your abilities and go through life at cause over your environment, creating the life you want, living in joy and happiness, being able to manifest your goals, dreams, and desires, one of the things is you can't have your head in the sand. You have to be aware of what is going on around you and around the world. You have to have a high level of consciousness, which means awareness, knowingness. Ignorance is never an excuse for stupidity. If you are ignorant and keep your head in the sand, you can't have a high level of awareness and consciousness. One of the things that we've talked about, and many other people have talked about, is around the world, in the United States and around the world, in governments everywhere, there is a deep state. You've heard that the government lies to you, that politicians are manipulated by the power brokers, the lobbyists, the money. You've read in my books, and I've said it many times, other people have said it many times, that power and control and money at the highest level is what the individuals are concerned with. And it's their own power, their own control, and themselves being enriched and increasing their wealth. You don't hear about it. What you hear in the news, what you read in the newspapers and on the internet, and quite frankly, what you hear pundits talk about on podcasts around the world are sound good information. It's surface stuff. It's not what goes on behind the scenes. What goes on behind the scenes is many times radically different than what you are seeing in the news or listening to on podcasts. Many times you will have politicians look right into the camera and say these absolute statements of fact, and they are knowingly lying or just repeating what they've been told to say by the lobbyists who are giving them money. Most of the politicians are just handed a script and said, read this. They didn't write it. They don't know if anything in it is true. They just read the teleprompter, or they just read the script that they've been handed to that's been written by the lobbyists. This is how it works. And I've had past U.S. senators on my show say that that's exactly how it is. And now you never hear from those people ever again. It's like dead silence. It's kind of like, they're dead and buried. You never hear their name. It's mind-boggling what happens. We have today in this story 100% direct evidence. Remember, there's a difference between knowing about something and knowing something. The information you're getting here on Limitless and the Kevin Trudeau Show comes direct from sources who have been there and who know. Much of it, I have been there and I know. That's what makes us so unique and different than other type of podcasts. We have an operative, a top secret operative, effectively, an insider. He can't mention his name. His voice has to be garbled for his own personal security. He was physically in a room when something happened. And what happened is not an isolated instance. This is something that happens all around the world that's never reported on. Never. The US government and other governments around the world, here's what they do. They use the legal system and they use the police for political purposes and to increase their power and control and wealth by persecuting their political opponents or by simply stripping away from wealthy people wealth and giving it to themselves or their family members. You're not hearing this in the news. It's the deep state at work. And I have documents here in front of me. These are top secret documents. There's a highly confidential document here, which is top secret, and it says, Your Excellency, I would like to address you regarding a sensitive matter that I would like to keep private and confidential. I can't even read this on here. We have congressional records, which we're going to talk about in a moment. But let's bring on our operative who was physically in a room to tell you the story of what happened. And this is not an isolated incident. It's not something that just happens outside the United States. It happens in the United States. It happens in England. It happens in Germany. It happens all over the world. This man knows over 30 years experience of being there. This is just the most recent blatant example of what's happening. And you need to know what's happening so that you can increase your consciousness and awareness so you can be at cause over your environment instead of at effect and not be powerless, but be powerful. We're empowering you with this information. I'm going to call this guy Mr. X. We'll call him Mr. X. Mr. X, are you on the phone?
Yes, Kevin, I am.
Okay. Now, I talked to you on the phone. We've known each other for many years. You're one of the people that I don't talk about a lot because there are many people like you at the highest levels around the world that are friends of mine that we communicate and you give me information from direct experience. You were in the United Arab Emirates in the city of Dubai recently with one of the top lawyers in the world, Mark Agnifilo. Am I pronouncing his name right? Agnifilo, thank you. Mark Agnifilo. And Mark is one of the top lawyers, criminal lawyers in the world. He's represented top people. Who are some of the people that Mark has represented? Do you know?
I do know. So he is currently representing Sean Combs, better known as P. Diddy, who is facing very serious accusations that your listeners probably know about. Him and his wife are also representing the person who is alleged to have shot the CEO of UNH. In the past, he's represented Dominic Strauss-Kahn, former head of the IMF, and many other very important clients. I'm not exaggerating when I say that Mark is probably one of the three top criminal defense lawyers in the United States and the world.
Okay. You and Mark, you know each other, went to the United Arab Emirates, went to Dubai to meet a client, an individual who got a visa, a golden visa from Uzbekistan. Is that correct?
So he has a Dubai golden visa. This person, this Mark's client, is a citizen of Uzbekistan, but as many people of his stature tend to do, he also has a second residency in Dubai. And as an investor in the United Arab Emirates, he was awarded the so-called golden visa, which is supposed to offer him a certain level of protection. But as we will see from the story, that's exactly what did not happen in this case.
Okay, and he's a very wealthy gentleman, correct?
Yes, this person is a very wealthy business person. He is one of the top business people in his country. What makes him different from most people in his country is that he is not the kind of rent-seeking person who is just involved in selling off the natural assets under the ground, but he's building stuff. So he's invested his money to create one of the largest cement companies in the region. So he's not the largest, and he's involved in many other projects that are actually creating jobs and positive effects for the economy.
Okay, so this man is a business tycoon, and his name is Shadmanov. Oh, okay. So you guys went to see him, and we're going to tell the story, but I want to just first start off with what actually happened. You and Mark Agnifilo, the lawyer, were in a hotel room with this gentleman, Shadmanov, in Dubai.
We weren't in the hotel room. We were actually in Avila. We had just stepped off the plane to fly from New York. We didn't stop anywhere. We went directly to see him because he already knew at that point that something was brewing. And so he had told me, literally he, meaning Ulubek, called me a day later and he said, a day before, and he said, I need you guys to get on a plane and come see me.
Got it. So he calls you. You know him, again, one of the wealthiest guys in the region. He calls you personally and he says, hey, get on a plane, come to Dubai. Within hours, you're on a plane to Dubai with Mark, the lawyer, to meet him. You get off the plane, you go right to the luxury villa where he is. You're having a meeting with him. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, so we're having a meeting and we're discussing the situation, which will, as we said, we can get into what the situation is. But at this point, we are having a conversation. We're sitting there being served endless cups of tea and, delicious dinner. So they're sitting there having a talk after a 15-hour flight. And all of a sudden, we hear very loud noises coming from outside of the compound and then inside the compound. And we are kind of, Mark and I are kind of looking at each other, what's going on. These are not the typical noises you expect to hear at 2 o'clock in the morning. Immediately after, 30 seconds after we first hear the noises, we see a person in a balaclava with a battering ram enter the villa. And then immediately behind him, about 30 or 40 agents with police vests and balaclavas carrying. Mark later told me that they were blocks. I personally wouldn't know, but he said they were blocks. Pointed at every single person in the room, yelling at us for us to get on the floor and behind our back, which Mark and I wisely complied with. So we have then we're relying on the cement, not the cement, but the floor, and have 2 agents standing over us. Mark said, I kind of see a red dot jumping around me, and I'm just thinking and telling the agent, please stay focused, please don't get nervous, and stay on me, right? I'm sort of not thinking anything, and it's certainly not the first time I've been in a situation like this, but doesn't make it more fun every time that it happens. And so we spend about 30 minutes on the floor. We hear commotion in the room. Then they handcuff Ulubek and put him, as we were told later, in a car. At that point, Mark and I are allowed to present our passports. They ask for our Dubai visas, which obviously we have. And at that point, after we already understand that this part of the show is over, Mark says, "Look, I'm Ulubek's attorney. I would like to know why are you arresting him and where are you taking him?" And to which the literal response that comes is, you guys are nobody here. We don't care. We know who you are, but we don't care. You did not see anything. Get on a plane and go back to your country. And that's pretty much the dress quote. And so we were let know in no uncertain terms that we were not welcome to stay there anymore, and we were being advised that it would be better for our health and safety, which is the reason that I have to appear, among many others, have to appear with a disguised voice on the show. We were let know better, don't talk about this to anyone.
They take him away, and what happens to him next?
So this is the part of the story which is really has the most relevance to your listeners. And by the way, Kevin, I want to say that the reason I'm talking to you is that I appreciate the courage that you have to bring stories like this to life. Because, as you said, this is not stuff that gets talked about anywhere in the traditional media. This is really how things happen in the real world. And it takes brave people like you and audiences like yours who want to know the truth about how things work to bring the level of awareness in this world to a higher plane. So even at a great danger to myself, I want to talk about this and tell you what happens. The guy gets taken away. He gets thrown in prison, which, if you know anything about Dubai, is not a pleasant experience. Mark and I obviously hire local counsel, and we expect that, his lawyers are going to be able to go the authorities and find out where Mark's client is and what he's being charged with. It is certainly not a common thing, as you know, for a normal person to be thrown in prison with no charges and not to be given access to civil searches. But this is exactly what happens. We are told, or rather, Ulubek's local lawyers at this point are told, we do not know of this person. He does not appear anywhere in our computers. The Ministry of Justice, the prosecutor's office, the police, the immigration authorities do not have this person in their system. We have a term for this. He was disappeared. And I want you to think about how chilling that is. Any person, even a person with great needs, somebody who is given and welcomed in a country such as the United Arab Emirates, can be disappeared in a matter of minutes. Nobody knows where he is. Nobody can talk to him. He's not given access to anyone. Not the phone call to his attorney, nothing.
And by the way, this just happened last week, didn't it?
It happened a month ago, but that doesn't matter. It happens every single day all around the world. This is not, like you said, an isolated incident. This is something that goes on a daily basis. And it doesn't only go on in countries such as the United Arab Emirates. It goes on everywhere.
So when the government wants you to disappear, you disappear.
They make it happen.
And it's every government, right?
It's every government. There's no exception that I know. We have heard, and if you want to think about stories that are not from our not so distant history about what happened at Guantanamo, about the George Bush's efforts during the war against terror, but any person can be called a terrorist. It doesn't take much. There's not much burden of proof that has to take place. You can be classified as it's a check mark in the system. You get classified as a terrorist, you disappear. And it doesn't take much. It doesn't mean you have to have a bomb in your vest or something like that, right? If you participated in a financial transaction that appears suspicious, that is enough. That is enough for you to be disappeared. And in this particular case, this guy, this is what I want you to understand, this guy was never charged with a crime. He was never given access to any normal due process that we expect in the civilized world. He was never taken through the court system. He was thrown, about 2 weeks later, he was thrown in a private jet and flown back to Uzbekistan, where, for reasons we can discuss later, he's almost certainly facing the prospect of torture, illegal imprisonment, and so on and so forth. But Uzbekistan may be a place where we can expect such things to occur. Certainly when people think about Dubai, what do they think about? They think about the luxury cars, the 5 and 6 star hotels, the great restaurant scene. It's really become a mecca for the international business community. A lot of money is flowing into the country. And Uzbek was simply another investor until, as we learned later, the president of Uzbekistan, and this is what it's all about, the president of Uzbekistan, his family, are going after the guy's assets. They decided that he's getting too powerful, too wealthy, and has too much influence, and that he's the kind of element they would like to disappear. And that's what they did. It takes one phone call from the president or his people to somebody high up in the government, in the royal family in this case, of the UAE, and it's done as a favor to them, as one gentleman to another.
And it's all off the books. Again, there's no record. He was not given access to lawyers. He did not go through the court system. Even the flight that went from the United Arab Emirates when they sent him back to Uzbekistan, that private plane, there's no record of that either, correct?
So there was no record. It's a private flight. The passenger manifesto is altered. Nobody knows that we know, but we know because we have access. But if you were to go and check the flight registry, his name does not appear on any flight manifest. He was not there. For the 2 or 3 weeks that he was held in detention in Dubai, Uzbek was not there. He could have been thrown in, buried in the desert in the sense, and we would not know any better. Or at least there would be no public records. Again, we would know. But there's nothing. We are trying to bring this injustice to light. And again, this is just one example of many. This is not limited. I don't want your listeners to think, oh, well, it's that part of the world. This would never happen here. This would never happen to me, God forbid. You have to check.
So when people listen to politicians, can we trust what they're saying is accurate? Or are these politicians knowingly giving us false information? And do they know that documents have been altered, destroyed, changed? Or are they... Do they know?
So let me tell you a little story. This, again, concerns this particular case, but I'm just using it as an example because this is the case that I've been assigned. Congressman Leslie Hunt, certainly a well-known name, goes on the U.S. congressional floor in March of 2024. And
I actually have here a copy of the congressional record. So I have that document right here with the transcript of the speech.
So March 15, 2024, Texas Representative Leslie Hunt is saying that United Cement Group, which is the company that Uzbek owns, acquired Uzbekistan government stake in one of the country's largest cement factories in early 2022. And then Hunt goes on to claim that they were seeking monopolization under the guise of privatization to the benefit of Russia. So out of nowhere, a U.S. congressman, think about it, a U.S. congressman is talking about a medium-sized cement plant in Uzbekistan as somehow being a contributing enemy of the U.S. state, essentially, because we're fighting a proxy war in Ukraine. And so that this cement company, medium, small-sized cement company, certainly on a global scale, is somehow contributing to the war effort on behalf of Russia, and that the acquisition is somehow done on behalf of Russia. Now, I happen to know, and I believe you also have documents to show this, that the entire statement that Congressman Hunt made was fabricated based on information that he received from well-paid lobbyists. And that later those lobbyists were forced to issue an apology for presenting inaccurate information to a member of the U.S. government. Of course, that apology was never published. You have access to it, but it was never published. Certainly, Congressman Hunt never went back on the floor to say, you know what, I was misinformed, and he just relied on information that was bought and paid for, that was fabricated, that was provided to him by lobbyists who are bought and paid for. And again, this happens on a daily basis. If you think that the U.S. pharma industry, that the large defense contractors are not spending millions and billions of dollars to do the same thing on a daily basis, to misinform the members of the government, members of Congress, and certainly in some cases, the members of Congress and members of Senate are direct investors in those same companies. And so they're not only defending the so-called truth and justice, but they're defending their own pocketbooks. And when they go and lie